Hello and welcome to Lightworks. In this tutorial we're going to have a close look at working with effects using the video routing panel. The video routing panel is an excellent place to manage your multi-track effects compositions when things start to get a little bit complicated. It's a node-based system allowing you to build up blocks and set the flow of your effects through each block. In this tutorial we're going to build a title composition for a snowboarding video. Let's have a look at what the elements are. In the background I've got a picture of a mountain with some colour work and a glow. I've got two strips of colour, a blue strip and a red strip on top of these two pictures and pictures to help frame them. The pictures and pictures are tinted with colour with individual colour modules, and then at the top we've got the text Austria 2014. The text has a blend effect applied so it reacts with the background that's underneath it. Austria is blurred slightly and the year sits over Austria with an outline on it. Let's run it through, see how it looks. We start off without any title graphics on the piece. The Austria text wipes on, and the 2014 drops in. The pictures in pictures play for a little bit longer, and then the whole lot wipes off to the background. So we're ready to start editing. Okay, let's have a look at how we put that all together. So here we are with the base composition. I've got my three tracks, the background mountains and the two picture in pictures. I'm renaming the tracks on the timeline to help me manage the composition. This is the man with the blue mask. Okay, let's open the video routing panel. The shortcut is function key 7. The three nodes I've got here represent my source video tracks on the edit timeline. The blue track, the gold track and the background track. And they're marked on these nodes, and actually we can see a display of the current media on the node as well. These source video nodes have a right click menu where you can show the tile and reveal them in the content manager. You can also access the file card information for the shot. Let's get connecting up some effects. First of all, I'm going to position my three source video nodes down at the bottom of the video routing panel. To move the composition of the nodes, just left mouse click and drag. And we'll start from the bottom and work upwards. Right, let's get the first effect in. I'm going to focus getting on the picture and pictures in place. On the top left, you'll find your regular effects browser, just the same as if you press the effects button on your timeline. From here, I'm going to go to DVEs and select the split screen effect. Click, hold, drag and drop that. Now we've got the right picture in picture node and the left picture in picture node. I'd like to move both of these closer to my source video nodes. If I click and drag one of them, we only move one at a time. If you wanted to move connected nodes in a group, just hold down the shift key. And now I can move those as a pair closer to my source video connections. The man with the gold mask is going to go on the left hand picture in picture. To do that, we're going to connect the output of the gold mask source video to the foreground input of the left picture in picture effect. Just click on the output node, drag the cable to the destination, left picture in picture, foreground. Click to connect. Let's do the same for the man with the blue mask. Click the output node and connect him to the right picture in picture, foreground. And that's done. Next we're going to put the colour tints on these two picture in pictures. Back to your effects section, colour. I'm going to use the colour tint module. I want to place the colour tint module between my source video and the right picture in picture effect. To make that connection in line, click and drag and drop the effect and overlay it on the effects that you want to connect to in line. Release. Now we go out of the source video into the colour tint and onto the right picture in picture. You'll notice that my source video has gone off the screen here. I could either scroll to access that, or a nice quick way to tidy up your routing display is just to hit the tidy button. Now everything's back in order. Next, let's put the tint on the man with the gold mask. Drag and drop, target in line to the source gold mask video. Release. Now I've actually placed the wrong effect on here, so I'm just going to use the undo. You'll find the undo buttons on the bottom right of the routing panel. Undo, get the correct colour tint, target the source video and connect that. If you want Lightworks to automatically position your nodes as you drag and drop them onto the video routing panel or connect them in a clear arrangement, tick the automatic positioning box. I tick here, just click on the routing panel. Now as we proceed to add more effects, automatic positioning will keep things in order without having to repeatedly press the tidy button. Okay, let's quickly set up these colour tints. Effect settings are accessed by right clicking on a node and choosing settings. The settings panel opens. I've got my two tracks up at the top here, the blue track and the gold track. These represent each picture in picture. The man with the blue mask, pull down the green to 50, change the amount to 30, and that's done. For the man with the gold mask on the other track, switch tabs, colour tint, blue to 0, and the amount's 35. That's done. Next we're going to work on the background effects. For the mountain, I want to get the mountain in the background here, and I also want to get those coloured stripes encasing the picture-in-picture strip. To do that, I'm going to go to my colour presets section. I'm going to use my colour correction and corner gradient blend preset and target the mountain shot in the background. Now here's that group of effects all together now. We come out of the background and we blend together with the corner gradient, go into a colour correction. We just need to connect the output of those modules into the background of the left picture-in-picture. That connection's been made and we can now see the result. Now before we go on and continue building up the effects, there's a couple of final functions I want to point out. I want to zoom in on this section here. I'm going to left click and drag on the canvas, and to zoom that region you can use the edges of the horizontal or the vertical scroll bars. Click and drag. The horizontal scroll bar achieves the same result. There is a further way to zoom the routing panel. Click on the routing panel, hold down the left mouse click. Keeping it held, hold down the right mouse button. Now, if you push up and down, you can zoom your display. Now it may be obvious that we need to always connect outputs to inputs on the nodes. If you do attempt to connect an output to an output, Lightworks will inform you this is not possible with a no entry sign. And finally a note on the orientation of the node display. I'm going to work from the bottom to the top, building up my effects layers vertically. You do have another option to go from the left to the right. If you prefer to work this way, the results of course will be the same. To change the node orientation, go to the menu on the video routing panel and select left to right. Now we'll be working horizontally as opposed to vertically. I'm going to continue working from the bottom to the top. Okay, let's set up the corner gradient bounds and set this up how I need it. First of all, on the gradient layer, I'm going to crop the top and bottom values so we get that blue and red strip in containing the pictures in pictures. The blend mode I want to use is a burn, and I'm going to set that value 70%. That'll knock back the mountains a bit here, but make sure the lines are nice and rich in colour. Okay, that's done. Next, I want to process the background mountain a bit further. I'm going to try a blur. To the effects, stylize, I'm going to pick up a blur and drop it on the output of our background effects nodes. And there you can see the blur is applied. Actually, I'm not too sure about that. I think I'm going to switch that node for something else. I'm going to try a glow. In the stylize section, you'll find the glow here. If you've applied a node and you want to switch it for something else, you don't have to delete it, re-plug in something else. You can swap nodes by dragging from the palette. If you left click and hold the glow, drag, holding the left click, target the module you want to replace, still holding the left click, tap the right. The glow will be applied in place of the blur. We didn't have to worry about any reconnection of the modules. I'm going to set up the glow parameters. Luminance glow, 36, 70, 0.5 and 62. There's no glow channel, a touch of glow just to lift the picture. Where I turn on the monitoring of these effects on the settings panel, you can actually do that from the nodes themselves. I'll just move this out of the way. If you click on the node you want to monitor, let's click on the glow, you can turn it off and turn it on just by clicking the module. Next, let's bring in the titles and blend them with what we've done so far. I'm going to zoom out a touch, reposition my composition, up to the titles section, static title, and drop that in. Now the automatic positioning setting is going to snap everything down to the base of the nodes. You may or may not want this. If you don't want them to snap down to the base, just turn that off as you drop them in. For the moment I'm going to do that. Auto positioning off. Titles. So we need to blend the output of our composition with the titles we're going to add. We'll need a blend mode to do this. Mixes, blend, drop that in. Now the background of the blend is going to be the output of our composition so far. Let's connect that. And the input to the foreground is going to be the output of the title module. Let's connect that. And now we've got the Lightworks text as the default title module. I'm going to right click on the blend module, hit settings, open my effects settings panel. Now I can see my blend mode and the titles text. This text here is going to be Austria. While I'm here, I'm going to rename my effect title to Austria so I can keep track of that on the nodes. The size 0.4, positioning 38, 18, the X and Y, and the font is a font I've got called Elephant. Now I'm going to blend that with the background using screen mode. I'm going to drop my blend amount to 54%. Now what I'd like to do is actually blur this text a bit to make it a bit more interesting. Let's drop a blur in. Stylize, blur, target the title and release. Now we come out the title, into the blur and onto the blend composite. On my blur, I just want that about 20%, just a touch. Next let's put in the year text, 2014. Back to our titles, another static title, and I'll drop that on here. Now you notice that modules have inputs here and outputs. What I'm going to do is run this title here into the input of my Austria title so that it all runs through and ultimately goes through the blur. Let's set that up. I'm going to rename this effect 2014 so I can keep track of that on my nodes. Text is 2014, XY position 78 and 13. I'm going to set the size 0.2 and the font modern number 20. I'm also going to put an outline on it, about 150%. Now actually that's not quite how I want it. The 2014 text is blurred and also sits behind Austria as far as the text layering is concerned. I want to turn off the blur, bring that to the front layer. We need to do a quick bit of rerouting here. Disconnect the 2014 node. That's going to sit up here. We're going to come out of the blur and run that straight through the 2014 node and then go on to our foreground blend. Now you can see the outline cuts in to the Austria text and 2014 sits above it as far as the layer ordering is concerned. So that's all done. I'm going to work on the global colouring of all of these layers now. So this blend module is the last module in our composition and I want to run that into a colour correction module. Colour effects, colour correction, connect those two. Now before I make the global settings, I just want to go back to the colour correction on the mountain shot and add some settings to that base image. 70 on the mid wheel, increase the saturation, 21, gamma 1.27, contrast -70, brightness -4.8, and again it's going to be 30. On the RGB tab, I'm going to add a tint of blue, 2, and that's that done. So going up to the blue tab, this colour correction here is this master output module here. Let's punch in some settings now. I'm going to pull down my mid wheel back to -50, global saturation to 30, gamma 1.2, contrast 31, brightness -8, and the gain's going to stay flat. I'm going to push some warmth into the highlights of the mountain shot. Those values are going to be 20 degrees at 12%. So the base composition is pretty much there. What we need to do now is wipe on the Austria text, drop in size and opacity keyframes for the 2014, that kind of falls into place, and then wipe off the whole lot and reveal this picture here in full screen, ready to proceed with the edit. On my timeline I've added some cue points. You can drop in cues using the apostrophe key. These cue points are as follows. This point here is where the Austria text wipes on. This point here is where 2014 drops in. This keyframe is where it's revealed fully as far as opacity is concerned. This keyframe here where it's actually finally in place. There's about 10 frames between these 2 points. Down at the end here is where I want the whole lot to wipe off, and this final marker I want it all to be gone, and we'll do that now. Let's deal with the text, wipe on Austria. What I'm going to do is turn off all my tracks apart from the blue track and make a cut at this point here. Press C on the keyboard. I'm also going to add a cut here, and from this cut onwards is where 2014 is going to appear. So you can notice now that we've sliced up our tracks into these little blocks. So actually the routing that's related to each segment is displayed in the routing panel. Currently it's all the same, but I'm going to set things up so I'm ready to deal with my effects. I'm going to disable the nodes for the graphics, 2014, the blur and Austria. We're going to start off for the first second without any of that. When Austria comes on, 2014 isn't going to be there either, so I'm just going to disable that node in the second segment. Right, let's wipe the Austria text on. To do that, I'm going to right click on the cut and add a 25 frame wipe. There we go, from no text, and it wipes on through that progress. If I park on the wipe, you see the routing panel's looking a bit more complicated. What the system's done is duplicated the routing on each side of the segments and run it all through a wipe, connected that automatically for you. So you've got the left hand segment and the right hand segment routing all connected to this wipe up at the top. Let's deal with dropping in the opacity and motion keyframes for 2014. I'm going to set up my titles, 2014 track. I'm going to need to work with a few keyframes here. Using my basic keyframe track down at the bottom, I can achieve all of this. So I'm going to use opacity and size, make sure I'm parked on the first keyframe, and set up the initial values. Initially the size is going to come in from quite large at 0.3, but at the starting point its opacity is going to be 0. Stepping on to my next marker, about 6 frames later, I want that opacity motion to be complete. It's going to be fully faded in then. Stepping to the next marker, about 10 frames on from the initial start point. That size is going to be back to our default start size 0.2. 2014 is then dropped into place, just slightly overlapping the Austria text. Let's deal with wiping off the title graphics in this last section here. I'm going to do that using the video routing panel itself. Go to my mixes, pick up the wipe, and just drop it up the top here. Now the output of my graphics composition is going to connect to one side of the wipe, and the other side of the wipe is actually going to be my source video of the man with the blue goggles. I'm going to take this from the output here, the original source video node, and notice that there's a second output available for us. As you connect nodes together, where it's applicable, the system will generate other output nodes for you to add more complicated routing possibilities as you work. So I'm going to take output node from V2 and connect that to the wipe. But there's a problem. As I progress through, the title's actually wiping on. I want to swap these two sources round. I want the man with the goggles here on the left and the title wiping off on the right. Rather than messing around reconnecting our wipe inputs 1 and 2, there's a nice function in the right click menu. Right click, choose cycle inputs. Doing that will cycle your sources through the available inputs on the modules, and now we've achieved to swap that round. So as the white progresses, the title comes off and we reveal the man with blue goggles in the background. So now I'm just going to set up the keyframes for that last section and make sure that we don't get any white motion in this first part of the segment. Okay, so the wipe, settings, keyframe progress is already set, and that will last all the way through the segment. From the left hand wipe to the right hand wipe, we need to fix that up. So going to the first keyframe, it's going to be no progress. I'm going to jump to this marker over here. I still don't want any wipe progress, so I'm going to set that to 0. And at the next marker here, our progress is complete, and that value should be there. Okay, so that's all fixed up. We go through here, there's the wipe. Now there's quite a lot of effects going on here, so depending on your GPU you might need to render, and you can render. Just right click, choose the render option and render that all off. So let's go through to the top, give that a run through. So we hope that guide on the video routing panel has been helpful. Remember to experiment and practice, and you'll find the effects possibilities working on the node-based system are endless. Thanks for watching.